It is Sunday night. We are talking baseball, a lot of FAAB talk, a lot of baseball talk. Unfortunately, some injury talk too. All coming up next on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Happy Sunday evening, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, sponsored by Prize Picks. We appreciate their sponsorship of the podcast. I am Scott Jenstad, joined as always on Sunday nights by Jeff Erickson. Jeff, we got a basketball game going on right now. We got a lot of baseball to talk about. The coach for the Timberwolves just got hurt and taken off to the locker room. This is a wild game here, but how are you tonight?
Doing well. I'm super entertained. Big day of baseball and basketball and hockey, and barely paid attention to the golf, but Rory won. I mean, it's pretty crazy. It's a very, very busy sports day. Oh yeah, and then we had the draft this weekend too in the NFL. So super fun week of sports. Underrated week of sports.
I was gonna say it's kind of a sneaky underrated. I always love I love the weekends in basketball where we get 4 games Saturday, 4 games Sunday in the playoffs.
Like great stuff.
You only get it for that the first weekend, the second weekend when the series is still going on, then everything ends and they go lower. But I love the quad Saturday and Sunday back to back.
Absolutely.
So let's get into baseball. We got more and more injuries. We'll get into that in a second. Jeff, the White Sox are no longer the worst team in baseball. How's that make you feel?
Well, as the under on the Marlins, it makes me feel pretty good. Poor Marlins, fans at least. Not poor Marlins front office and management. I mean, the way they, and ownership for sure. I mean, they really screwed over Kim Ng, so I'm kind of happy to see this happen in a way. I just no fan base deserves this, as always. But
it's pretty crazy. They're 6-23 though. Like, this is someone that I think we thought was you were obviously down on them. You had the under, but their over under was what, like 80? I think it was 82.
78.5.
78.5. So around 500. They're 6-23. The White Sox swept the Royals this weekend. That's who they swept, right? No, who they swept?
No, the Rays.
The Rays. That's right. They swept the Rays.
Pretty good for your bet against me.
That was pretty good for my bet against you. Rays in last place, which is good for that bet there. But the White Sox moved up to 6-22, so the Marlins a half game back. It's pretty wild. I didn't think that the Rays or the White Sox at 3-22 would ever get past, but it only took one sweep. That's how bad Florida or Miami is right now.
Yeah, and as much as I was down on the Marlins, I wasn't this down on the Marlins, right? And obviously I wasn't this down on the Rays, but things have kind of gone sideways for them.
They're still 13-16. Like they still could be okay, but they're not. They're a -32 run differential in a division that got some good teams. There is an interesting team in that division. It's Boston, who's had literally an entire roster full of guys get hurt. And major guys too. I mean, Story's out for the year. 3 of their 5. I guess if you count Giolito, 4 of their 5 projected starters are either on the IL or out for the season. Triston, Casas, I always say that wrong, is all hurt now long term on the 60-day IL. It's crazy they're 16-13 right now and a +33 run differential with how many injuries they've had.
Exactly, it is, and they I think 3/5 of the rotation, really 2/3 of the rotation, because you count Lucas Giolito too before the season even began.
Yep.
It's and I wanted to address the pitching side of things here because a lot was touted about the Red Sox rotation, and how they changed their pitch mix, fewer fastballs and all that. I don't necessarily think it's causative, but I think it's just noteworthy that, hey, if we're going to focus on this, if we're going to tout them for what they've done and how Andrew Bailey's awesome and all that, I think we have to at least raise the question, is that contributing to the outbreak of injuries they've had on their staff?
Andrew Bailey's a really nice guy, by the way. I met him.
Sure
met him once at Dave & Buster's and played a few games together. He was a really nice guy. He and his wife are both really nice.
Yeah. And the thing is, I sometimes, we talk about the increase in velocity adding into injuries. Well, maybe throwing more breaking pitches also does. It's possible. Depends. I've heard both schools of thoughts on that. I don't really want to blame necessarily, but if we're going to give credit, we have to at least raise questions too. That said, Tanner Houck dealt tonight.
I was going to say, you're a fellow passenger on the trip to Vegas before the main event. Just stay healthy, Tanner Houck, because we talked to him a bunch. We both have him in the main event. We really need him to stay healthy.
Absolutely. Really need the bullpen not to screw it up and blow wins for him too while we're at it there. Coldplay sucks.
You just knew it was coming. But I do have Mike Tauchman on the same team. So as you said earlier, a little Pyrrhic victory there was what you told me. So that's true. But I need wins badly. Wins are so valuable that one hurt. That one and the Eric Fetty one early in the week. Eric Fetty had a great week. Speaking of friends of the Vegas Drive, Eric Fetty was really good this week.
Yeah. And that's not one I was on, but absolutely, he had a great week, and he's having that's one thing the White Sox did right so far, at least. So huzzah to them. But I am pretty upset with losing that win there. Every win is sacred.
Yes, Whit H in the chat. Coldplay Sucks was a reference to Chris Martin blowing that save. So just to explain that, Jeff is not actually a Coldplay hater as far as I know.
Not a lover, but it's just they're just there. Otherwise,
I think it's pretty clear in the National League. The Dodgers have put some distance on the NL West now. They played really well this week. They did lose today, but them and the Braves, man, they just those two teams are monsters. They are. The Dodgers have not quite been that great up until this week. They started pretty well and then had a slump there for a while, but they're 18-12. The Braves are 19-7. Man, these two teams. The Phillies are in there too, 19-10. Those three teams are really, really good.
Absolutely, and I think the Phillies don't get enough credit for being in that grouping there.
I agree with you there.
But sweeping the Padres this week, I'm pleased that our Reds split the 4-game series against the Phillies in that sort of line. Pretty happy about that, actually, when you think about it. Then they lost 2 out of 3 to the Rangers, so tough spot there. But I think the Rangers are going to be fine eventually, by the way, too. But going back,
have you looked at all at the Phillies starting pitching ERAs?
It's pretty damn good.
They have one guy over 3 and only 2 guys over 2.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good. Ranger Suarez is by far or at least he was early in the week, the most valuable earned auction value pitcher in using RotoWire's tool there. He's up to 5 wins after this weekend. Pretty good.
Well, that was the robot Phil Dussault, NFBC player's pretty much main breakout pitching pick too. Apparently he's good at this fantasy thing.
Well, it's the second time he's ridden Suarez too, then, because he took him to a title when he dropped DeGrom earlier than everybody else. Kind of perfected the timing on that and by the way, that the lesson here is, I think the takeaway here is not just that Phil is very good and a nice human being too while we're at it.
Yep.
But there's value in that spot, and stashing injured guys is fraught with peril.
It very much is.
And the opportunity cost. If he had held on to DeGrom one more week, he probably wouldn't have got Suarez. He certainly wouldn't have gotten him at a cheap price. Would have been a lot more expensive the subsequent week, and wouldn't have got the full benefit of the pickup either, for that matter. And not in some cases, you're picking up the player and not even using him that week, but at least having that talent on your team. It's the opportunity cost. I've got a team where I've got like 4 stashes, and it's miserable. Like, I'm holding on to Royce Lewis. I'm holding on to Luis Robert. I'm holding on to Paul Skeens, just waiting for him to get called up. And then I lost Lane Thomas. And what do? You have to cut somebody, right? I mean, you just
who'd you cut? Lane Thomas?
I cut Lane Thomas in that league.
So I had the same. I actually asked you this afternoon. I have Garrett Cole, Luzardo, Garrett Whitlock, and someone else. I forget who else, but four guys I didn't want to cut, and I did the same thing. It was either that or throw 8 pitchers this week, and I wasn't good with that. I actually ended up cutting Garrett Whitlock, who I really like, but I just didn't have an update on Luzardo. If that had been 2 months, that might have been the answer there, but they didn't have the imaging back yet. He said it's pretty minor. I never believed the player anyway, but I wish I had another day of news on there. But Whitlock hadn't thrown off a mound yet. You got to figure he's a month off when he goes to rehab outings, and he was probably the lowest ceiling of the guys anyway. But It was Bobby Miller was the 4th guy, by the way. So
last in, first out. Good accounting principle there, and it works in fantasy too. I mean, and here's the thing: it's not like you're forever blocked in getting Whitlock back.
Yeah, I could pick him. He probably could bid on next week, but I could be one of the ones to bid on him too.
Exactly. You find out bad news on Luzardo. Okay, well then he's the cut, and yes, it's frustrating that it ended that way, but so it goes. Wow, it looks like Phoenix is going to get swept.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is that the end of that big 2.5 there? What happens there?
2.5. I love that there. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah. Last thing I want to get to real baseball before we do jump into some news and notes and some FAAB. The Twins had a really good week. Twins won all their games this week. They were 6-0 this week, 7-0 this week. They won 7 games in a row. They were 7-13. Now 14-13, up to a positive run differential. 4.5 games behind the Guardians, still in the Central. But the Twins figured something out this week. Something's clicked here. The pitching's been a little better. Pablo Lopez is really good today until the 5th inning. Then he got smoked, but then they smoked the Angels. It helps to play the Angels, by the way, who are really bad. But Twins seem like they figured something out this week.
Yeah, they did. And when we talk about free agents that we picked up, I tried to kind of add to, capitalize off that a little bit there. But yeah, they got some hitting, going here. They called up Trevor Larnach. I think he's going to be a good pickup. Carlos Santana finally heated up, and heated up might be the operative term too. Weather was really miserable, as it always is in April, early on in Minnesota. So they still may deal with that. There's still could be some other things there, but they do have a road series at Chicago next. That could be, White Sox. That could be a good one for them too.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they know, the Guardians were off to that great start. They did run into Atlanta this weekend. And the Twins took advantage of the Angels, who are just circling down the drain.
Yeah, someone in the chat mentioned Jacob Young, 3% rostered on Yahoo. He had a really good weekend. He had 4 stolen bases the last 2 days. I think he had like 7 runs scored. Do have him in the main event, so that helped a little bit there. I do really like Jacob Young. I'd like him not to hit 9th would be nice. If maybe we could move him up there some way. But interesting. Nationals scored some runs today. Our old boy Nick Senzel with 2 home runs.
Yeah.
I wish him nothing but the best.
I feel the same way.
Yeah,
and I'll be wishing for him for the best from a distance, because he won't be on my roster. And I could be wrong about that. Him and Jesse Winker. Winker hit didn't Winker hit a grand slam, or was that the other day? Yeah, and
I think it was yesterday. I think it was yesterday.
And weren't they down 6-0 today and rallied to win like 10?
Yep, they were down
9 or something.
7-0 to the Marlins and won 12-9. Yeah, Jazz Chisholm hit a grand slam early, and then shockingly enough, the Marlins bullpen fell apart. I know that you're really surprised by that.
Yeah. They're kind of going into stay away territory here.
Let's hit a couple of news and notes real quick before we jump into a busy week of weekend of FAAB. I guess the 2 biggest notes over the weekend were both on one was Friday, one was Saturday. But Jesus Luzardo was supposed to start on Friday. All of a sudden, got scratched really quick. 15-day IL with left elbow tightness. I saw an interview with him where he pretty much said, I felt it. It felt a little bit weird. I wanted to get out in front of it. And then made the comment, like, I'd rather miss 2 starts than a year and a half, which is not exactly what you want to hear when you
very cryptic.
Someone who's had Tommy John before in 2016, like, you just hate the fact that, like, he knows what it feels like and he's even starting to think that way. But we didn't have the imaging results in. I saw there was a quote from their beat right like 7 hours ago saying they're still waiting on it. I saw an interview with their GM. As you could tell, I was trying to dig in deep today, trying to figure out what the status was. But I held him just because I just don't know what the story's going to be. I have a bad feeling it's going to be a drop next week, but
Yeah. It's awful. And I think you give it the courtesy week.
That's what I did.
That hope that it's just like, okay, well, get PRP, or maybe you just need rest. It's tendonitis. Yeah. The fact that he's immediately on the IL is difficult too, but and especially because everybody's dealing with this. Everybody's got their calamities. They have their problems on their bench there, and it's tough.
It is. It's one of those things that if it's 4 to 6 weeks, I can at least figure it out then. But if it's an easy drop, then I'll figure it out. But Triston Casas moved to the 60-day IL. What do you think about him as a drop, Jeff? That puts him at middle or end of June at absolute best case. The quote I saw was, it could be 3 weeks, could be 6 weeks, could be 9 weeks, which is fantastic. Obviously not 3 weeks anymore because they put him on the 60-day IL. It sounds like he from him talking to him, sounds like he's talking about his innards moving around too much. He got smashed together because he swung too hard. It wasn't like actually a rib. It was like actually like things like crashing together from swinging too hard. It was a very weird description, but I dropped him even in a 15-teamer. I just thought that July 1st at absolute best. I don't think it'll be July 1st, but that's an absolute best case. I really like the player, but I couldn't see holding him for 2 months with the thought that it might be a lot longer.
Yeah, and remember, Alex Cora said he was definitely worried about the long-term absence a week ago when he got put on the IL. So yeah, I wanted a lot of Triston Casas this year, and I don't have him. So don't have to make the decision, but I think I would probably cut him if I were in a NFBC platform.
Yeah, that was the same team where I had the 4 pitchers I asked you about, so you could tell it was really good.
Oh, yeah, nice.
His quote, just so I don't mess it up, was "I created my own car crash." Was the quote that he said. So it was an unusual injury without contact. So very very strange. He called it a car crash within his body. So I was close on the quote, but I just want to make sure I got that exactly right. But it does not sound really really good right there. I dropped him. It was painful, especially with the options you're picking up. But I think he's a drop in a 12 and a 15 at the moment. Some good news in Baltimore, Jeff. Both Kyle Bradish and John Means. John Means pitched really well in his rehab start today. I think 7 innings with 8 strikeouts.
Mm-hmm.
Both rejoining the rotation this week, conceivably. Bradish definitely is. I saw an interview with an Orioles beat writer, Rich Kubotka, I think his name is. Talked about how they don't know what they're going to do with Means because the Cole Irvin pitched really well his last 2 outings. Albert Suarez was a little bit rough today, so probably figure he goes to a bullpen guy. He's out of options, so he probably goes to the bullpen. He didn't know if they're going to go 6-man, if they're going to go kind of 5-man, but then maybe some guys slot in and out like some teams have been doing. But suddenly the Orioles got some rotations you have to figure out, but a good problem to have. Yeah,
it is. There's so many moving parts in Baltimore, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit there too. But I do think, you go activate Bradish if you've been carrying him all along. Yeah. I don't think you wait. I think you just go ahead and use him. Means I think that might be tougher, but I could be wrong about that. I happen to like, I don't have any Means. So again, I don't have the means to make that decision. Whereas Bradish, it's against the Yankees. That's the only problem, but still think I do it. I still think I do.
I think you do too. In a 15-teamer, he's probably an option that you're going to use. In a 12-teamer, maybe you have some more depth there. He might be right on that fence if you want to give him one start against the Yankees to kind of sit that out. Since you say that about Means, I hadn't thought about that because I did get him in a couple leagues. It's the first time I've had him was this week. I haven't thought about whether I'm going to actually use him this week. But
he's at Cincy, so keep that in mind. If according to our projected starters grid, that's where he's going to make his return.
That is, if he does make a start, it'll be there because I think the first 4 are already. They made a Thursday TBA, but I think that'll be Bradish, so I think that'll be worked out. Yeah, at Cincy might be a good time to just let him kind of get himself set a little bit.
Sure.
How about speaking of Spency's, you said how about an 18 stolen base month for Elly De La Cruz?
Is that good?
18 in a month. It's April 28th. He has 18 stolen bases.
Yeah, he's been more than worth it so far. And he's the thing that I like. I see like Pitcher List, even like their daily newsletter, which you should subscribe to if it's free.
I do, Jeff.
Yeah, and the opening about that was talking about how the swinging out of zone has improved and things like that.
Yeah,
quality of contact's improved. Everything is improved. It's a joy to see.
He is super fun too. A couple of closer notes. Let's start with Craig Kimbrel, who gave up a blew the save today against the A's. The A's beat the Orioles 2 out of 3 in Camden, which is kind of wild. Kyle McCann hit a 2-run home run off him, and then after the home run, Kimbrel went out. The people that were watching the game said he was kind of like moving his side a little bit, so maybe it thought it was an oblique, but it sounds like it's some back soreness when the team started talking about after the game. And then you got Paul Sewald in Arizona. Rehab slowed a little bit. It's due to soreness. It didn't sound like there was any sort of setback, but they're just going to kind of maybe ease off him for a couple days. So I think that the Kevin Ginkel shares you may have, live another week at least for sure.
Right.
How worried are you about Kimbrel though? It's funny. I searched him after he got hurt. I'm like, I wonder what happened. I didn't realize how much Orioles fans hate him.
There was been rough.
A lot of really awful comments about Craig Kimbrel from Orioles fans. It was crazy. There were like a lot of people really don't like Craig Kimbrel and don't want him to be the closer.
Well, keep in mind too, they probably grew up rooting against him. I didn't say growing up, but he was a Red Sox for.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess he hasn't been that rough. I seem to remember him battling through some things. He had a 106 whip going into today, though. He has 17 Ks in 11 innings.
I think it's just been the last few outings that started to have some hiccups.
That was the first homer he allowed today. It was the first homer he's allowed all year. It's just that his last, he walks.
Three walks on Friday night against the A's.
Yeah, so it's been 2 blown saves in a row. So, you're only as beloved as your last save chance, right?
Friday night was the first earned run he gave up since opening, like the first outing he had. So, it'd been pretty good until the last couple of days. I think I'm fine with them, but obviously this back is an issue. If they have an easy guy to slot in, did you bid on any Gainey or Cano with the kind of thought that maybe Kimbrel's out a little bit?
We did bid on him in the main and we lost. I don't think I got him anywhere. I tried.
I bid too, but a little bit too far down my waterfall for me to have got him. I think I got something ahead of him, but He's an interesting one because I think he probably slides in there pretty easy. I think they keep Daniel Coulomb as the kind of the setup lefty, a Louis kind of guy. I think Cano, if something happened to him, I think he slides it pretty easily, just kind of being the traditional closer.
Yeah, they say there is no try, only do. I did not get him.
Well done, Yoda. Some good news though. We do have some good injury news. Zac Gallen plans to make his next start. Obviously, we want to see him get on the mound and do that. But he actually with a sore hammy last start is bugging him a little bit, so he's expected to make his next start. Bryan Woo in Seattle, very solid in his second rehab outing on Saturday. 3 1/3 innings, pitched really well there. So a pretty positive note there. And then also Nick Pivetta on the IL, a 50-pitch side session on Saturday. So we do have some guys that are. We talked about the Orioles guys. We do have some guys that hurt in spring training that seem to be returning here in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, in the case of Pivetta in the season too. So he actually made a really good start. One that was not so great, but and that was one of those Monday surprise ILs too. So that was kind of frustrating in the case of Pivetta. But happy to the Red Sox really need him back. What a wild weekend between the Red Sox and the Cubs. Cubs killed them on Friday night. Then the Patriots defense came in and shut them out on Saturday, 17-0 in that one. So it was weird. Wild weekend there. And then of course the Cubs steal the game. The Cubs steal the win from my Tanner Houck, but they didn't steal the game. That's right.
They the Cubs have 3 position players pitching that game. Is that right?
I tried not to watch it.
I think it was 3.
Yeah. Well, we haven't had so many of those.
We have not. Year. But at 17-0, I guess I can't really bring. It's not like you're bringing them.
Yeah,
with the 4,
I don't begrudge that.
The 4-run margin that we've seen in the past. But I think they used 3 position players in that game. But let's since we started talking about FAAB, let's jump into that. First note from our sponsors at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. You pick more or less on 2 more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Tomorrow will be a great day to do it. We talked about NBA a little bit earlier. That we got Celtics, Heat, Thunder, Pelicans, and Lakers, Nuggets tomorrow. So you got a lot of games you could play on there, plus a bunch of baseball games. Jeff, no day games tomorrow, so that's a good Monday note there. So if you're playing Prize Picks, you can play all the evening games. Yep. Prize Picks has quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Download the app today and use code ROTOPOD for a free deposit match up to $100. That's promo code ROTOPOD for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks. So Jeff, let's go hitters first with FAAB this week. There was a number of outfielders that I thought were pretty interesting. Let's start with the one who got the most bidding, it looked like, from my quick scan of my leagues and other leagues and some of the comments on Twitter. But Joe Adell, back in our lives with the Los Angeles Angels, has had a really good start to the season, and some metrics that maybe look that he's a little bit different. He's striking out like 22% of the time instead of his usual 40% of the time, making a lot of hard contact. Already has 3 home runs and 5 stolen bases. Stolen bases are really key to me because I think it's very clear that Ron Washington wants to run with the Angels. He wants to give guys the green light. Adell already has 5. He's playing more, hitting over 300. The strikeouts down is really the key here. But were you interested in Adell? Do you not buy this? I know his career 222, all that kind of stuff. Obviously a huge prospect in the past, but how are you feeling about Joe Adell?
I think he's a perfect post-hype sleeper type of guy. The Angels in the past have really screwed around with him. They never really fully committed, and yes, he gave them reason not to commit. I get that, but I also think sometimes players need to work things out, play through some struggles a little bit. He's played the last 6 games in a row, Adell has, and I think that continues. I think especially as the Angels continue to do their thing that they always seem to do, why not keep playing Joe Adell more and more and see what you got? Adell struck out twice today in the loss to the Twins, so that K percentage is going to go up a little bit there incrementally, but he did get another hit. I think he's had a hit every single game since starting. I did bid on him. I got him once in the Beat Jeff Erickson, one of my Beat Jeff Erickson's online RotoWire online championship, a 12-teamer, and I got him in yogurt. I got outbid on Adell in the main event. Unfortunately, I did want him. In fact, we don't even necessarily need another outfielder, but it was one of those.
How much did he go for in yours? Because I was like, I talked to you earlier, and I think I'm going to be aggressive on Adell. I'm going to go. I think whatever I told you, 50, 55 or 65, whatever it was. I forget what the number is, but I ended up going a little bit higher than that, I think, and I still was not all that close. He went for triple digits in both my main event bids. I thought I was being aggressive, and clearly we're at a spot in the season where there have not been a lot of guys to bid on. It's been kind of tough to find difference makers. I think clearly people thought that this may be one.
Yeah. We bid 55, but Main Street said hello and bid 87. So yeah, we lost there. It's a respectable bid. I kind of wish we would bid a little bit more, but at the same time, then we'd have to make some hard decisions on who to start. So it's okay. You think so? Like, for instance, our outfielder, said Sal Frelick would probably be the guy that would sit if we got Adell. He's been fine. A lot of power there.
15 teamer. I think Sal Frelick's pretty much an every week starter.
Yeah, Mitch Haniger and Colton Cowser. Those are my marginal options. So, yeah, I still wanted him because guess what? Adell could be, he could be a difference maker.
Yeah,
and you're always looking for that. So yeah, I was in on him. I got him in a couple of my bidding leagues. So, and with one more still pending.
112 and 171 in my two main events. So I thought I was being aggressive. I clearly was not. My Vegas main event league has been really active and aggressive. So I probably need to, it's only April 28th. So I'm figuring out, some people are going to be low in money. Those are aggressive, but I probably need to, just factor that in a little bit. I think that you need to, at this time of year where you can figure out through 5 or 6 FAAB periods, kind of how your league bids and at least adjust some of your bids based on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Other outfielders, though, we had Pete Crow-Armstrong called up in Chicago. We had Heston Kjerstad called up in Baltimore, although UT only, and he's kind of sitting a bunch. Hunter Goodman called him in Colorado. What did you think with those kind of 3 outfielders that maybe, I don't know what to call them, below the Adell tier, but that's kind of how the bidding worked out. What did you think about those 3 guys?
Well, let's talk a little Kjerstad here. I had a tweet that really resonated with people there. Like, why the hell aren't the Orioles playing him? And the thing is, you weren't wrong about him sitting a lot. He's had 5 at bats twice now. Heston Kjerstad didn't start with a righty on the mound, which is the thing that's really infuriating there. I get it if he was sitting against a lefty. That's fine. Why did you even bother calling him up if you're not going to play him? I know the Orioles aren't stupid. I mean, I think they're a really smart organization. I get that, but it just seems like, yeah, this is a guy that, you wanted to get better. Was it just because you weren't sure Mountcastle's knee was going to hold up? And you just wanted to have another bat in reserve? I just feel like he's a prospect worth, kind of preserving a little bit. Why not just call up Kyle Stowers if you just wanted an extra bat?
It is weird because when Cowser made the team, he didn't really play a bunch initially either. We talked about that earlier too. And I was like, but it's hard to count on. It's hard to it worked out this way with Cowser. Maybe it'll work out this way with Kjerstad. And they do need to clear out a spot for him. Oh, there you go. Paul Sports with the same thing, but they do need to clear out a spot there. And I guess it's Ryan O'Hearn, but Ryan O'Hearn's been really good against righties. So it's hard. And he's hitting third when he plays against righties. So you're just not going to take your third guy out. And then you got Mountcastle, who I don't think you're going to use your 5th hitter. I don't think you take him out. Jordan Westberg's been good. Cowser's been good. It's just you need someone for Kjerstad to play. And I just don't know where that spot is right now.
Right. And I guess that's the point. Maybe it's if Cowser goes in a slump, they think about it that way. Although obviously you're losing defensive value if you go that route. I think there is a little bit of difference in the 2 situations, but I also get it there too.
Although Cowser needed Austin Hayes to be bad to get his role going too. So I mean, I guess you could have someone kind of the same way, but he needs an injury or someone to kind of be bad for a little bit to really get a bunch of playing time.
For sure. But I fear that he could get sent back down, and plus he's UT only. It's the other thing that.
So if you have Ohtani or Ozuna or even JD Martinez now that has come back, I know that Buxton is now an outfielder and Joey Meneses is one first base game away. So there's some utility guys moving away from utility only, but it's weird because they just have so many. I mean, they have so many studs, and obviously they sent Jackson Holiday down this week. They got Kobe Mayo still down there. They just have it's a good problem to have. They have a glut of really good stud young hitters.
Yeah, they do. And it is a problem nonetheless for our purposes.
Yes.
So I went from looking forward to licking my chops at a triple digit bid to just a waterfall bid, like a couple bucks, because I don't really want to spend a lot on a guy that I don't think I'll have a chance to play in the near future. Although when we get to pitchers, I'll show off my hypocrisy pretty quickly. But
and I was at the point where I need guys I can slot my lineup to. Like I'm at a point where I can't really stash guys. I got a lot of injuries. So I needed someone that if you could stash Kjerstad, I could see that. But what'd you do with these other guys? Hunter Goodman called up from Colorado. Obviously, they had the home week / Mexico City week this week. Now they go on the road. Pete Crow-Armstrong is in a situation where he should play almost every day because he's the best defensive outfielder with Bellinger out. Bellinger's out. We don't know. We don't have an exact timetable, but it sounds like a 6 to 8 week kind of thing with him. So it's out long term. Hit the home run, his first major league home run this weekend. What'd you do with these two guys?
Crow-Armstrong surprisingly wasn't available in as many leagues as I thought he would be. So I thought he'd be all in on that. In fact,
was that drafted and kept?
I think so.
Wow, interesting. All right.
And, it was like I think Scarfy was already rostered. I'm trying to think. Hunter Goodman was available to me there, but Crow-Armstrong was available in our main. I take that back. Interesting. For some reason we weren't big on him on that one there, but I think we're focusing more on the pitching. I think that's what the thing is. Like, we'll go big on Adell, but we didn't want to go big on Crow-Armstrong. I think it was kind of our thought there process, whether that's flawed or not. Point B, but keep in mind too, we're like first in stolen bases by a comfortable margin. So I'm looking more for a power upside, even though Adell has the speed to go with it. I'm still looking for the power first. That was one of the reasons why I went that way. Hunter Goodman, I mean, it's just kind of like Bouchard last week. He's a stream is the way I look at it there.
I feel like they might just kind of eat each other, like Nolan Jones is going to play, although he's got a bit of a back issue right now. And then Brenton Doyle's going to play in center field. I just kind of feel like Goodman and Bouchard kind of take each other's playing time a little bit, which made it tough.
Yeah, exactly. I think we should talk Trevor Larnach too. I mean, because they sent down Matt Wallner. I think Larnach, is I'd prefer Larnach over Hunter Goodman. I think I don't know if he's, the thing is he has flopped before, but he's also had good moments before too. So I guess I was more interested in him. Especially
there was an article about how much he changed his approach to, and he actually did a lot of different things and did a bunch of stuff over the offseason. So I actually was interested in him too. I think the Twins have 5 out of 6 righties this week. So I was definitely in on him too. I got him in one of my 2 main events. He was kind of my after I think I had Adell, then Crow-Armstrong, then I had Larnach third, I believe, is the way that I had it ordered. But I really like him. I mean, he always hit the ball hard. Like last year, he had a big strikeout problem. It was 34%, but 13% barrel rate, 49.6% hard hit rate in the majors. Like that was a pretty good contact profile there. Just you get those strikeouts down to, I don't know, we call it mid 25, 26%. He said it becomes a really interesting player pretty quick.
Yeah, it is going to be, it's kind of, I think it's in a good lineup too. I think it's going to get better. I think when it heats up, that ballpark will be a pretty decent place to hit too. I kind of like a lot of things about that. And I think he has to hit though, to kind of keep his spot. Cause like when Royce Lewis comes back and you get a couple other guys back, he's going to have to justify that roster spot.
He will, but I think he's got a pretty good runway here to go for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks of consistent playing time. I think he'll probably sit against lefties, but play against a bunch of righties and see what he can do. I think it's I like that. I like that a lot as an ad, kind of in the lower, like getting him for an under $20 kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. There looks like we're getting a couple of guys getting. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
Oh no, we're going to the same place. We've got someone that wasn't available in NFBC this week, but obviously a lot of people play a lot of different leagues. Joey Loperfido. I'm hoping I'm saying that right because we haven't seen him play any games in the majors. Getting called up tomorrow by the Astros. The Astros, who have been a mess to start the season, looking for kind of a kickstart. He was 19. He was 24 home runs and 24 stolen bases last year in A and AA and AAA last year. Then 12 homers so far in 24 games this year. So he's been a lot of people have been talking to him on Twitter. You hit that many home runs in the minors, people notice that pretty quickly. 50% hard hit rate so far in AAA. Where do you think he kind of slots into Houston? Like, who are we talking about? Is Jose Abreu going to get DFA? Like, what are we gonna do here?
It's possible. By the way, I really love seeing Chas McCormick not play in a Mexico game today. That was cool.
I know. They only had 2 games, but you're like, oh, it's in Mexico. I got to start all my guys. Then when it becomes 1 in Mexico, that changes pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was really kind of frustrating there to see that. So, but yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, if you've got Abreu, I mean, it's a pretty. I already dropped Abreu in our main last week, I think it was.
He was available in mine, and I did not bid on him today. So that'll tell you that. But it's he's got a lot of money left on that contract, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He signed through 2025 at $19.5 million this year and $19.5 million next year too.
You know what though? I mean, it's spent money, right?
It is. Major League Baseball contracts are all spent money. I just teams are just hesitant to click that wave button.
Yeah. By the way, it's not. I think the other thing I thought I saw is that Thomas Segesi, I'm really guessing on this one here, might be getting the call as well for the Cardinals. So something to watch out for there. I might be wrong about that one, but keep an eye on that because that's something that the Cardinals could use a little bit more offense there too.
I was about to say the Cardinals could, as a Sonny Gray owner in many leagues, the Cardinals could really use some offense because he's been pitching great and they just cannot score for him.
Yeah, I can't find confirmation on that one, but just something to keep in mind. But that would be another one that we couldn't bid on this week that we will be able to bid on next week there.
Right.
Loperfido, I mean, if you got late FAAB, go for it there. I know in the NFBC you have to have a game played before you could do that there. Right. And of course, he was a big, like, kind of a pop-up prospect, if you will, too. So, I check your league rules to see if they apply and see. Yes. And also going to call up may not be officially called up, too. We run into this one in the RotoWire Staff Keeper League all the time because he actually has to be called up for us to bid on a player.
It sounds like he is getting called to me. That seems like it's pretty well sourced out, but that makes sense. He's not actually on the roster as of this moment, but a couple home runs this week, and we could see some really big bidding next weekend because that if he were to find a slot in that lineup, that's obviously a pretty good place to hit. Eventually, that team's going to hit.
Yeah, you would think so.
Some lesser names down the board here on offense. Maybe guys that could help you out. I had Mike Tauchman on here, although that probably got bumped up. The Sunday 3-run home run bump always gets people. He had a home run on like right before the deadline too, because we were talking about Tanner Houck and the win there, and Tauchman at the 3-run homer. So his price might bumped up. Matt Vierling's playing a bunch in Detroit, third base and outfield eligible. Kind of interesting name there. Dylan Moore is playing a lot now. That JP Crawford went on the IL. He's playing second and outfield eligible. Will probably be shortstop eligible pretty quick here. He's played the last 4 or 5 games for the Mariners at shortstop. You mentioned Carlos Santana earlier. Alec Burleson's playing a little more in St. Louis. What other names outside of those top outfielders we talked about at the beginning did you find yourself putting some bids in on?
Tauchman was the first guy that special nod to Jacob Young and what he's doing with the Nats and what the Nats are doing stolen base wise.
Loving Jacob Young this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, second leadoff, right? Batting 9th and stealing a bunch of bases. You'd almost rather him bat 9th and 7th. Yes,
I agree there. And Tauchman hitting second against righties right now. I mean, that's a really good spot in that lineup.
Yeah, exactly. And Carlos Santana always goes through a phase like this, right? Where, he'll have, he's still a solid major league player and you got to like that. But, it's just, you have to deal with the batting average slows as well. And that's the part that, you have to worry about a little bit there too. So, but, he's always there for you. There's always money in the banana stand. There's always Carlos Santana on the waiver wire.
He was 23.86 last year.
Yeah.
Yep. And somehow stole 6 bases, which I think might be a mistake on the stat line, but apparently he stole 6 bases last year.
Yeah. And, I think people are hoping that Pirates would recreate that with Rowdy Tellez this year. I don't think that's happening, but it's more, this is a Carlos Santana thing.
Man, Carlos Santana's 38. How did that happen, Jeff? When did that happen?
I think sometime whenever his birthday was, but yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
It's frightening when that happens. There were the NFL draft. You mentioned at the beginning, there's so many like juniors getting drafted. I was like, I just can't believe that I'm this old. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is getting drafted, I was like, this is a problem.
Yeah. There's that happens all the time. When there's guys that we covered that are in our database for 25 years, and now their sons are playing. It is crazy. Yeah.
Any catchers this week, Jeff? Did you find yourself, if you need a catcher, I found I needed one, and I forget who. I picked up Riley Adams last week when Francisco Alvarez got hurt. That did not work out well. I think he was 0 for however many at-bats he had. Anybody you like a catcher? Joey Bart's doing a little bit in Pittsburgh, kind of making Henry Davis the backup there, which is kind of wild. Ben Rortvedt in Tampa, the really buff guy from the Yankees farm system that's playing a bunch, and he's playing more than Renee Pinto is right now. Are there any catchers that we can pick up these days, Jeff? Because it's pretty meager out there.
I kind of bought into the Rays have found a catcher hype thing with Pinto to begin with there, so I've been almost kind of trying to stay away from that now. But yeah, I think there was a league where I think a decent catcher was available, but the problem was I should have a more concrete example, but where I had Bo Naylor already, and I just like, oh, do I want to cut Naylor for this? No, I don't want to chase like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, I'd be holding Naylor too. I had Danny Jansen available in my auction league, 15 teamer. I went for high 20s and he went for 55. So I just didn't get him there, but I would like to have that one. But it's tough to find anybody. I'm just trying to find someone that doesn't go 0 for the week is what I had last week.
Yeah. If I had a 0, it'd be one thing. I don't have a 0. I have a something.
Yeah, mine were really good until Alvarez got hurt, and then I suddenly have some zeros pretty quick. Our friend Art in the chat mentioned that Jose Trevino might getting more of the Yankees share. Austin Wells has been really cold. He was a little bit better this week, but yeah, it seems like Trevino's kind of carving out a role in New York also.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, and I think that was often like even in draft season, that was rumored that could be the case. Yeah. The Yankees kind of listed him as first on the depth chart there, so I guess we shouldn't be really super surprised by that.
I still do like Wells. I still have him in one league where I just haven't found anybody that is worth replacing me. He's not done anything yet, but did have a couple of hits this week. But he's got a 189 BABIP and a 13% barrel rate, so maybe that'll flip a little bit. He's walking more than he's striking out. So there are some good signs there, but it's tough when a guy has no home runs and 2 RBIs through the first month of the season. That just is essentially playing a 0 at a position. That's really tough.
It is rough. It is rough, and it's rough trolling in the catcher waiver wire waters in a 2-catcher league. In a 1-catcher league,
bad.
A little bit better.
Every week, I'm like, maybe there's somebody that had a good week, and there really isn't anybody. I just keep looking at.
Last year or 2 years ago, where we had a decent number of pickups. I think it was last year.
I think it was last year. Catcher was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I just don't think we're having that this year.
Yeah. Let's talk some pitching fab. First, a note from our sponsors at Vivid Seats. Finally, baseball is back. This Major League Baseball season, knock it out of the park with Vivid Seats and score great tickets to the biggest games of the year. Every fastball, every home run, every eye-popping play of your favorite team, live and in person. Plus, with Vivid Seats Rewards, you earn rewards with every single purchase. Just buy 10 tickets, then cash in your credit towards your free 11th ticket. Talk about an easy win. And here's a pro reward tip. When buying tickets for your whole group, split the bill and make progress towards your free 11th ticket even faster. From behind the dugout to the upper deck, Vivid Seats has great tickets for all the 2024 games that matter to you. Visit vividseats.com or download the app today. Vivid Seats, experience it live. See vividseats.com/rewards for all terms and conditions. Jeff, as I was looking at starters this week, there was a lot of names I wrote down and kind of went through, and they were all kind of in the same grouping, like kind of interesting names, but nobody that was really aggressive with. I kind of just went John Means is the one guy I bid a little bit up for, but Simeon Woods-Richardson, Tobias Myers. There were the 2 steps in Bailey Falter and Ryan Feltner, which was confusing because their names are really close, but both really good 2 steps on paper. Slade Ciccone in Arizona. A lot of names that I thought were interesting, some intriguing pitchers, some guys who strike guys out, but nobody that I need to really get this guy, right away. What did you starting pitcher this week? Because I found there to be a lot of names I was interested in, but nobody that really jumped off the page to me aside from maybe John Means.
So you weren't interested in Bryce Elder?
Man, I think I got burned by him last week. He was in my list, but was not really high up it. Obviously, the team factor plays in really well with Elder.
So that was our priority. Shu and I picked him up in the main event. We spent about $80 on him. It sounds like you're not endorsing, and I get it. He was 84, and actually we won it comfortably, 84-31. So we wasted some money. But then again, we've been falling short every single week, and we're not even going to use Elder this week because it starts at the Dodgers, and the NFBC we're allowed to go that way. We don't have to use him the first week we get him. But I thought it was worth our time because hey, it could be a rotation spot on one of the 3 best teams in baseball all season long, and he's had periods of success. I thought he kind of turned over a little bit of a new leaf. I think his minor league stats suggested maybe his component stats were going to be a little bit better. I don't know. I think there's some things to like there. So we got him, and we got Simeon Woods-Richardson in the main event. I got Elder in a couple of other leagues as well. Like I said, I'm not going to use him. I'm not going to use him this week against the Dodgers, but I'll use him in other leagues. I mean, in other weeks, and I think there's a chance he holds on to this spot all season long.
Yeah, the Braves factor was definitely a good one. I think that I was a little freaked out by how bad the second half was last year. I know I think he made the All-Star game last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
He was really good in the first half, and the second half fell off pretty hard. Not someone who strikes a lot of guys out, but yeah, I think that he was in that list for me. I think I was a little more excited by some of the other names, but I don't begrudge it. He went for 51 and 48 in my two leagues, so you were a little aggressive, but you weren't that far off.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, not that far off is what I aspire to, Scott.
There you go. As long as that's a win right there. I like what I saw from Tobias Myers in Milwaukee. He gave up a few runs today against I think they're playing the Yankees. Yeah, and then they took him out and the Yankees went crazy. But I like the strikeout numbers that I saw from him. And you look at AA last year at a 14% swinging strike rate, 28.7% K rate, a 7.7% walk rate. So a really good numbers there. And I just one of those guys that I watched and I was like, this guy looks like he has some stuff. So I was in on him a little bit. Yeah, but I wanted to ask you about the two steps. Feltner and Falter, where there were some jokes online about that. But Bailey Falter has been getting by with some magic so far this year, pitching really well for Pittsburgh. He's at Oakland and home Colorado. I mean, that is a beautiful two-star.
You can't get it any better. Yeah.
And then Feltner, who pitches for the Rockies and kind of has the good metrics, but hasn't been good yet. Obviously pitches in Coors Field, but he's at Miami, at Pittsburgh. So pretty good two-start week there too. Did you dip your toe in on either of those guys?
Yeah, I had bids in on them both. Knowing, they're small bids. These were clearly like they're smaller necessarily because I figure it's this week only in both cases.
Yeah. I think they're definitely, because with Feltner, like there's some interesting stuff, but you're not going to throw him ever at Coors. So it's not someone you're going to hold on to. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you look at Falter and it's just hard to see how this keeps working, but then you see the matchups and, I went back and forth. I had Feltner ahead of him just because I liked the punch out and numbers a little bit more. I think you get some more strikeouts there, but both these guys you can feel like they could have good weeks or both they have some blowups too. Like these are risky ones, but really good matchups and two starts makes a big difference.
It does. So yeah, I think both are good. I also was in on Simeon Woods-Richardson. Gets the White Sox. The White Sox this week. And then he gets a two-step next week. Home against Seattle and then at Toronto. At Toronto, I don't love, but again, I like the team context. I think Minnesota is a pretty good team. Woods-Richardson has actually shown some signs that he's taking that next step. This might be a guy that we make a love connection with. He might have him for a while, and that's what Tim and I, it's like our
was there like a Chuck Woolery joke in there? What did we do there?
Not really a joke.
I thought you were making a reference and I missed it.
No, this time I wasn't. You're so conditioned to it there. I understand. You're tortured by me, but I get it. Like with Tobias Myers, I could have made all sorts of Arrested Development jokes. Like, and they rarely ever work, but
I would say many of them not suitable for air. So we'll have to be careful there.
Yeah.
A couple other names I want to ask you about. Spencer Arrighetti in Houston. We talked about a little bit. A lot of strikeout numbers looked a little bit better. And Quinn Priester in Pittsburgh pitched well this week against the Giants. 6 innings, 3 hits, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk. Gets Oakland this week. He's someone that I kind of pushed up a little bit on my board as the day went along. I think Priester has some interesting strikeout numbers and a really good matchup this week. He felt like an interesting guy to me. That's like it's probably a stream, but he pitches well. Maybe you hang on for a couple weeks.
Yeah, Priester is a guy who changed his pitch mix a little bit in spring training. They're trying to get him to miss more bats. Didn't really show up, and then his first start, then he got a little bit better. I could see it there. Ciccone actually had a pretty good start against the Mariners today.
Yeah, he's been pretty good in both his starts.
Not today, yesterday. I'm sorry. Yeah. Today it was Fott who had 11 Ks, so that was nice too.
Yeah, another guy pitched great for me and didn't get a win. Wins are debated.
They're so hard.
Right now. It's tough. Hard. Yeah, Ciccone, he's got 12 innings now. He's only got 5 hits, only 1 walk, and 11 strikeouts. Like it's only 2 starts, but I mean that was both have been really solid.
Yeah. I was a little interested in Matt Waldron is still on my roster in the main. We never cut him, so
are you using him for the Cincinnati at Arizona 2-step? I assume so. If you kept him,
I am. Yeah. I don't even think it's a question. Yeah. Why is he on my roster if I weren't going to use him? So
I agree.
He pitched well at Coors for crying out loud last week, and he, if you look at some of his starts, he's had to face the Dodgers, I think once or twice already. He hasn't had easy opponent so far in the this is Matt Waldron we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Plus he throws a power knuckle.
And power knuckle is fun. Like it's just fun to watch.
Yeah. What if I told you Ben Lively had a 14-1 K to walk so far? Would that interest you?
It did. I picked him up somewhere. I remember writing his name down when the bids came in. I did pick him up somewhere. I think that it's so far so good. I'm willing to give him a shot. Who do you face this week? He gets the Angels. Yeah, I'm throwing that one for sure.
Yeah. So he was in my waterfall too.
Another guy to me that felt like let me see this one start in a good matchup, and then maybe think about the weeks after. I'm kind of going week to week on some of these guys.
Yep, exactly.
What about relief pitchers this week in FAAB? We mentioned the Craig Kimbrel, a couple of rough outings, and maybe a minor injury. Some Yanni or Cano out there. Trevor McGill got a save this week, although Joe Payamps got 2 for the Brewers. But I think maybe McGill has the better stuff. He was 70% rostered in the main event, only 19% in 12s. Justin Lawrence got dropped by a lot of people. The Rockies closer did have 2 saves this week. Has pitched well his last 4 or 5 outings. And then Tampa Bay had all kinds of problems with Fairbanks on the IL. Colin Pache went on the IL too. Garrett Clevenger got 2 saves this week. Were you in on any of these guys for some saves? Trying to maybe find a couple before they move on.
I had Clevenger active this week in a league. Believe it or not.
That is some good playing right there.
It is desperation. I had Fairbanks.
That is beautiful.
No, it wasn't beautiful. It's just pure luck. I mean, I don't even think Clevenger's that good, but I saw that he had increased his velocity a little bit, so I went with him.
But if you get like a cheap 1 save, that's a kind of whatever. You got 2 saves this week. That's amazing. That's great. I love it.
It felt pretty good. I will admit to that. We lost out on Yanni or Cano in the main. He was available. Kimbrel we talked about earlier with the back issue. And
what did Cano go for there? Was it fairly small or fairly big?
79 to 56.
Wow, that's a pretty big bid.
It is, because we're all desperate for the saves. Although the thing is, I'm not really desperate. We have Jordan Romano has been picking up some saves for it. We have 2 closers, but getting a third would be even nicer. And we had Ryan Stanek to cut. So after picking him up last week, and he gave up runs a couple times. Don't really want him on my roster. Munoz is back to getting saves. So yeah, I had the spot. Might as well keep on churning and try to find a closer. If we can get him for a $50 bid, great. If not, we'll move on to the next week.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. Like if Kimbrel was suddenly out for a month, I think he's a top 12 closer in that stretch, right? Top 15 at least, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I like that. I didn't really do a lot in the closer market myself this weekend. I have one team that's good in saves, one team that needs him. So I had some bids in a Cano. Yeah. And I think McGill, but I just ended up getting somebody else. But kind of waiting for that one obvious one I'm hoping to get, and they can go bid. I have a bunch of money, and saves is really weak there. So I'm hoping maybe we get an obvious one here at some point.
Yeah. Pardon me at the specs here. You get old, your eyes get tired at night. So there we go. Reading glasses.
I have mine on right now, so I must be old already.
Yeah, well, I have contacts on too, but that's just the thing. It's like all of a sudden, like it is getting
your head's gonna freaking explode or something. You got a lot going on, a lot of brave wave stuff going on there.
Oh, I've always had too much going on. That's for sure.
I want to talk about a few. Last week we talked about kind of studs who were struggling and how to handle them. I want to talk a few names before we jump out of here. Guys who are like early, surprising, surging players. I had Ranger Suarez in here. We kind of talked about him already, but also in Philadelphia, Alec Bohm has had a really good start to the year.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about Bohm so far? Last year he was a big RBI guy. He is again this year, 26 RBIs already, hitting 354, walking twice as much as he did last year. Strikeout rate's still really good, under 16%. Hard contact stuff's about the same as it was last year. You think it's just a hot month for Bohm? You think that it's a lineup spot? I mean, he's just a really good place to hit.
I think he's ascendant. And I had Ellen Adair on Thursday talking a lot of Phillies, and
nice.
Kind of buy into Bohm. And it's interesting that he's ascendant. Even Johan Rojas is a little ascendant too. In the meantime, Nick Castellanos can't buy an extra base hit. It's odd to kind of see like the Phillies doing so well, like with Castellanos and Stott struggling. It's because of these, like someone like Bohm stepping up and filling up that void.
Yeah, Castellanos looks like a different hitter. Like he always is a hard contact guy. There's no hard contact right now. Barrel rate's under 4%.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to find much to like there. He's got 1 home run, 8 RBI on that team. That's tough to do.
It is. It's really difficult to do.
Since you mentioned somebody who's struggling, I want to just real quick before I'm on a segue here. What are your thoughts on Corbin Carroll at the moment? It says he's starting to move down the lineup a little bit. He hit 7th this week. There's nothing hard, no hard contact here. He's 24% hard hit right now. He's 41% last year. Strikeout rate's down. That's not an issue or problem, but he's guy this fast hitting 196. His BABIP's only 232. You got to figure that's going to go up, but I'm worried about the lack of loud contact right now.
I am too. And I think it's the shoulder. I really do.
That's it's not great because I don't think that's going away if that's what it is.
I don't think so either. I think it's very problematic. So I'd be concerned.
You and I are actually doing a draft tomorrow night. The Yahoo Friends and Family draft is starting a month late. It should be interesting. Where the hell does Corbin Carroll go in that draft?
Third or fourth round, maybe.
So let's say it's 12 teams. You're talking like around pick 40 to 50, somewhere in there.
Something of that nature, I think.
I think you're right. I think that someone will grab him at some point because you don't have to eat all the stats from the first month. It's kind of the key to the whole thing. But I think you're right. I think a lot of people worry about him, and just when you show that little pop, I know he has 8 stolen bases, which is really a really good month, but he's got to steal a ton of bases to make up for the power if it's not going to be there. Yeah,
he and there are others that are doing that too. I think that's the other problem is. He needs to do something else.
Yeah, 8 stolen bases a month is nice, but it's not so much nicer than everybody else. There's a lot of guys in that range, and he's doing nothing else.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Seth Lugo in Kansas City so far? 1.66 ERA, 1.11 WHIP in 38 innings. Signed in the offseason by the Royals, has been really, really good so far. Are you buying in here? Because it's you look at some of the deeper stuff, and it's a little concerning. I feel like he might be getting some good fortune so far.
I think if you were buying before the season started, you're not surprised. I think this is kind of the profile that he's always had this kind of profile. I don't think it's that much different than his profile in San Diego, right?
It's the strikeouts have fallen way, way off.
I guess maybe so.
You're talking, he was always like, he was 28%, then 25, then 23 last year. He's 15% right now. Swinging strike rate's under 9%. The left on base rate's 89%. Is getting lucky there. The BABIP is a little bit low at 267, but not horrible. He's not as many ground balls. You look at some of his xFIP is 4.47. I feel like there's you probably can't trade Seth Lugo right now because people probably see this, but
right.
I'd love to punt out of this one pretty quick, but he's been great so far.
Yeah, I think so. I think you. I have him in XFL, which is a hybrid keeper / dynasty format there, and I'm sure someone might be interested in him, but I don't know what can I get for him there too.
Yeah,
that's the tricky part.
It is always a tricky thing. It kind of in the same vein a little bit as Jose Barrios in Toronto, where the strikeout numbers are lower than ever, maybe except for his rookie year when he was in Minnesota, but 1.23 ERA, 1.04 WHIP in 36 innings, got 4 wins already for the Blue Jays. Walks are up, strikeouts are down. It's so hard with guys like this. You're like, what's going on? Swinging strike rate is 2% down. I think what just tells us is really, really early, and guys can get hot. He's another guy that I'd love to trade Barrios in a trade league if I could right now.
Yeah. I feel a little more confident on Barrios than I do Lugo. But I hear you too. I don't have any Barrios, and I only have one league with Lugo, I think. So yeah.
232 BABIP on Barrios and a 98% strand rate. His ground ball rate's up a bunch, which is a good thing. He's 47%, but he's got a 48% hard hit rate. There's a lot of badness coming for Jose Barrios, and I'm afraid it's coming pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't think he's at the same mercurial rate that he was a couple years ago with the Blue Jays, where he'd have 3 good starts and you trust him, and then he absolutely murder death kills your ratios. I don't think he'll do that necessarily, but yeah, correction's coming.
Some offensive guys doing really well. I think there's a guy first that I think you and I were both interested in this year. Basically on the fact that he was starting to come around last year. Then he got the injury as Taylor Ward with the Angels. We mentioned the Angels have really struggled, but Mike Trout's been really good. Taylor Ward has been fantastic. He has 23 RBIs already, 17 runs scored, 7 home runs. He's hitting 265, 15% barrel rate, 46.5% hard hit rate. This is someone that I think all this good stuff is supported. I'm fully in on Ward. He is not someone I would sell high, and I would hold Ward if you have him. I really like what I've seen so far from him.
Me too. I really, really like it because I got him in the main. So just stay healthy, please. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, he started really rough last year, and we're like, oh, I can't believe this guy that we really hyped up and liked is that bad. But then he really started coming along, and he got hit by a pitch, right? Is that what happened?
He was struggling before that, though. In fact, he was coming around when he got hit by the pitch.
Yeah, he was coming around. I think he got hit by the pitch right when he was
coming around. Not just hit by a pitch, but hit in the head, too.
That's right. He got hit in the head. And he was really starting to play well like those few weeks before that. So I think he can kind of toss out everything after that. But I really like the player. The lineup is never going to be great here. And, who knows what happens with their lineup. And Rendon's already out for long term. But I think as long as Trout stays healthy, they could be okay at the top half of that lineup. But I really like Ward. With Barrios and Lugo, I think those are sell high guys for me if you can. But Taylor Ward's a full hold for me at the
I preferred it when Trout was hitting directly in front of him instead of having one guy in between them. But yeah, other than that, pretty good. Pretty happy with him so far.
Another guy who's been really good so far, someone that was everybody liked in 2022, was disappointment last year in 2023 was Stephen Kwan. He's a guy that you're buying for the stolen bases, the runs, and the average. He only hit 268 last year. The BABIP was a little bit down, but he's at 340 or 339 after today. He's 1 for 5 today. Got caught stealing twice today, though. Never like to see that. But only 3 stolen bases so far. But he has 25 runs scored in 26 games. I guess after 27 games after today. But he's someone that's scoring almost a run a game. A huge benefactor of hitting in front of these guys, hitting in front of J-Ram, hitting in front of Josh Naylor. He's just been getting on base. The on-base percentage is 378. If you need runs and average, Kwan's been the guy so far.
Yeah. It's just, I think this is kind of the spectrum, that he has, and when he runs well in BABIP, he's going to hit for average. He's going to be a very valuable player. I mean, because he is going to be at the top of that order. He'll mix in some stolen bases too. And just those runs. I mean, I think that's the one thing we probably don't spend enough time on trying to max out runs, and batting order matters a lot with that. I mean, a lot of that, runs correlate with just hitting for power, being good hitters, period. But sometimes a player like Kwan will get overlooked.
And it's funny you say that because I was looking for, these guys, the players that we're interested to talk about. It's really hard to find runs in FAAB as you go along here. If you look at the top, even the top 20 guys in runs, it's all studs. It's just all the guys that would never be available. It's Mookie Betts, it's Acuna, it's Ohtani, it's Ellie, it's Keller Marte, Trey Turner, Bobby Witt, Gunnar Henderson. I just read you, and William Contreras. Those are the top 10 guys in runs. So you can't find them. Stolen base, right. You can always find some guys here and there, but runs are really hard. It's just that the best players have the most runs. It's really hard. It's a stat that's hard to find in FAAB, and I think it goes a little bit underrated.
It does. And it feels so good when you're good in them.
We had a question in the chat from our friend Anthony Gialdi. Scott, Jeff, how are your big teams doing so far? Jeff, I'll let you answer because yours are doing better than mine.
Main event's doing all right. So far. Would have liked that Tanner Houck win. It's still April 28th. So there a lot of things can happen. You could get the injury bug. Yogurt, I've got 4 guys I'm stashing, so it's not as good. Scarf was in last place for a while. Now it's middle of the pack, but lower middle of the pack at that. It's funny. That league, Joe Adell wasn't even available. Seth Klein already had him rostered. So, it's funny. You think, well, it's only the main event people are on top of everything. Sometimes it's Scarf that's on top of it more than everything. So, you just have to do your battle. Well, all in all, I'm doing all right. I know have a bunch of injuries.
Yeah, I have 2 main event teams. One I still really like. It started really slow, and I lost Shane Bieber for the year, whatever that was the second week. But I think that team's going to be pretty decent. I think that team has a chance to make a run in this league. And I think it's kind of the middle of the pack now. He was down at the bottom, gotten a little bit hot there. I need some offense to really get going. I'm really pouring home runs and RBI, and I just Austin Riley's big part of that. He's done almost nothing so far. He was my second round pick. My other main event team, my CLQ online team. I'm afraid it's pretty close to dead. I will never quit, and I'm going to keep going. But it's got I had 4 pitchers on the IL. I mentioned Triston Casas also. I had to drop Garrett Whitlock this week. From talking to me driving to Vegas, I really like Garrett Whitlock, but I had to drop one of them. If I get in contention of that team, it'll be a miracle of management because I think it's pretty close to life support. But it's April 28th. A couple of good FAAB pickups. You never know, so I'll keep battling. But it has been rough so far. The injuries have been. You have to hope they slow down because the injuries have been to the point where I'm finding it hard to field 9 guys on that team.
Yeah, I'll say one thing. I only have 1 main event team this year. We had 3 last year. I feel that I've done a better job of managing the team, being more on top of the FAAB.
Yeah.
It's just when the league has so much heft and you're dealing with a 15-team mixed league and the FAAB being what it is, sometimes it's hard to stay on top of. You agonize over these decisions. You really research them. You really dig in, and you want to be able to get that love to all of your teams. But let's be honest, main event's going to draw more attention than other leagues would, just because of the amount spent on the team, and and the amount you can win too. So having 3 of those last year, I found was a struggle. The people that have 8 main event teams, God bless you. Then again, they also aren't running probably tout and labor and all that. And if you're doing that too, even better that you're doing that. But I found that I cut back a little bit on my FAAB. I'm not doing the Chris Liss, have people do my FAAB for me model. Gordon Gecko too this year is doing that.
Liss has started out really well too, right?
Yeah. Liss has got a really good team. So it's fun. He's got Dusty doing the FAAB for him too. So that should be tough to beat.
That helps when you have someone really, really good doing the FAAB for you, because Dusty's a great player and a great FAABer too. Steve in the chat mentioned being a father makes it hard to do stuff. There's no doubt Sundays are tough. My daughter is 8. She's into tennis now, but was usually on Saturdays. But yeah, Sundays get tough, and just there's times where I don't really want to go to my office for 4 hours and do FAAB, but sometimes you got to do it. But
that's a great point, by the way. This is the first year I'm not coaching soccer. I'm kind of curious to see
probably helps
soccer tournaments on Saturday, on Sunday, and Saturday.
I mean, there were a lot of nights for the podcast where you were just getting back from tournaments. You had to do stuff while you were there. That's really tough.
It is. It is. So that might change things a little bit there. I miss those days. I already miss coaching a ton. Absolute ton. I miss it. I loved it. At the same time, I do have more time.
Are your daughters retired from playing?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, playing EYSO at least. Erin still played for her high school.
Okay.
But they have other coaches that are better than me, so that's fine.
That's debatable, but all right.
Yeah, no, it's not debatable. This guy's a great coach.
Oh, that's good.
So he's coached Mayfield is where my daughter goes, and he's coached there for 20 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's awesome.
A good coach at that level makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. I do have a little bit more time on my hands, and hopefully it translates. Hopefully I have a better year this year.
Couple other guys I want to ask you about before we jump out of here, because kind of some surprising early guys. Brice Turang in Milwaukee, I think, is someone that everybody was excited about last year because he was getting called up. He was making the team. He was quite disappointing last year. Hit 218, only 6 home runs. Did have the 26 stolen bases, but just didn't hit the ball hard very much. I think I looked at him in the offseason. I'm like, he just doesn't have that much pop to him. Really good so far this year. After today, he went over 5 today, so he's down to 310, but 13 stolen bases is the key here. He's already stolen half the bases he stole last year in a month. Clearly has the green light. Getting on base a lot more. His OBP is 371. Last year was 285. Obviously, getting on base helps with stolen bases.
For sure.
Strikeout rate is way down. He's down 8% there. A little bit up in the hard hit rate. Still not to be a hard contact guy, but someone that's really running when he gets a chance. And that's stolen base opportunity actually going is so much of the part of the battle with getting steals.
Absolutely, and that's one thing the team seems to embrace. And I think league wide we're starting to see a kind of uptick in that, not just the teams that are good at it, but in the last couple of weeks, more and more teams are running more, and they're willing to deal with getting caught a little bit more often. But the Brewers, the Reds, the Nats have all been on top of that, and if you got the runners on those teams, you're feeling pretty good.
That is very true, and it's just been a big difference last year with the new rules. Last guy I want to ask you about, someone that someone got the Korea bump is Robert Suarez. He had a save in those first 2 games when they played the Dodgers. Moved up in main event drafts because we drafted after those games happened. But he has been lights out. Credit to you. When we talked about him, you were on him. You liked him as the closer kind of from the start. There's a lot of Matsui talk. You liked Robert Suarez from the beginning. I give you credit on that one. He's been awesome. 0.77 ERA, 0.94 WHIP. 12.8% swing strike rate, pretty good K rate at 24%, but 9 saves already. The 9 saves is a huge number. You get a month of 9 saves. That's big. Suarez has been great, and there's been no doubt about him being the clear traditional closer being used in San Diego.
Yeah, and he's getting paid. But Scott, I get credit, but I don't get credit because how many teams I have.
I was gonna say you didn't draft him, did you?
It's so annoying. Yeah, I was all set in the main and. Didn't come close to getting him. That was I think our league set the min on him. Joe, credit to him for doing that. And that's the thing. Okay, he's going to be my second closer. No, he had to be my first if I was going to get him, and that was kind of the problem. So
you got Jordan Romano really late though, right?
11.1. Yeah.
Yeah, I picked
Right
him
up,
in the same main event room in the 8th round, and 11.1. Like that's, I mean, who knows what happens? Who knows if he sounds healthy? But like right now, he goes nowhere near that price. That was a great score you got from him.
Thank you, George Springer. Really appreciate that catch today.
That was a hell of a catch, by the way.
Yeah. But yes, getting a second closer is massive. I mean, you need a third at some point,
especially one that was a first closer 3 weeks before that, before he got hurt. Right. He was like a 5th, 6th round guy. Like you timed that exactly perfectly.
Yeah. My room gave that to me, and that's the one thing I got. I was willing to take it. And we had to talk. There was other guys we were thinking about it at coming off the break, and kind of just talked ourselves into it. And the break was very handy for us, because if we did not have that break and I only had a minute to decide on that, I might not have landed on Romano then.
Yeah. Speaking of closer, I got one stat for you before we jump out of here. Right now, Mason Miller's K- walk is 44%.
That's pretty good.
Is that absurd?
Yeah.
His swinging strike rate is 22.7%.
Stay healthy, please.
It can't, right? He's gonna get hurt at some point. I think we all know that, but man, stay healthy. I like they didn't use him today, by the way. I really liked, because he pitched Thursday and Friday, so it would have been 3 out of 4 today. It must have been really tempting to use him today to close that series against the world. But Lucas Erceg pitched, and he's really good too.
Yeah.
I really like that they didn't get tempted by it. It's frustrating as a fantasy owner, but man, I want him healthy longer term. I thought it was really smart not to use him 3 out of 4 today. I think they know what they have here and know how fragile it is too. I think that they used him back to back, which they don't love to do, but giving him 2 days off, I think, was really smart.
Well, and that's the reason why they gave him 2 days off, I'm sure. And
yeah, it was.
And kudos for them seeing the picture here. I mean, as much as we hate the A's ownership,
I was gonna say the long picture in Oakland is a scary place to think about.
Well, it's not in Oakland. It's on the franchise there,
in the Athletics franchise, I should say.
And I know they've had to carry water for them. Like Mark Kotze's probably had to say some stuff that he didn't want to say. The general managers probably had to say some stuff like that too. It's all separate our hate of the ownership and maybe the team president from the actual baseball people.
It'll tell you a lot that when the A's are up in the 9th inning, make sure to find a way to flip to that game, because it is those innings are much. When he struck out, was it Judge, Soto, and Volpe? Like that inning was electric.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anthony Gialdi in the chat asked, does Mason Miller return the rotation in 2025? I do not think so. I think they'd be crazy not to leave him in this role and let him be an elite closer.
I think you're probably right. I know starters have so much more value, but at the same time, I just think.
I don't think he lasts as a starter, and I think
exactly.
He's so good at what he does. He can just gas it out for an inning. He's going to throw 5 innings like that. He's just going to get hurt. I think they've got to leave him where he is.
I think you're right about that.
Thank you to the really nice comments in the chat from Benson there. I really appreciate that. There's been a lot of really good comments in the chat. So tonight we really do appreciate those always. Jeff, anything else on your mind? Anything else you want to say before we jump out of here besides go Pacers? I know you're fired up about that win today.
I am fired up about that. Yeah. Hey, great day of the playoffs today. It
was after this morning's games. That Clippers Mavericks game was unbelievable.
Bananas. Bananas game. I think the Knicks Sixers was bananas too. I mean, super physical, kind of borderline dirty.
How did the Knicks get so many fans like down low in the seats? It's not like I get like upper level people. Like a lot of season ticket holders sold those seats to that game.
Well, I think what happened is the Sixers themselves made tickets available to the resale market because they knew
because the area like right behind the Knicks bench, every time someone shot a 3 and they were on that end, that whole section stood up. It was crazy to see that in Philadelphia of all places.
Knicks and Rangers fans both today on the road went nuts. Rangers in Washington against the Caps to finish off that series too. It was weirdly fun to have a playoff game like that where they were cheering for both teams. Like that was such an electric atmosphere. It felt like a tournament game. Yeah,
it really did. Yeah, it was fun, and Jalen Brunson was awesome. It was a great game. So good baseball tonight too. Like that Cubs Red Sox game was good too. You're right. It was a very underrated, really, really good sports weekend. I loved it.
Indeed.
Beautiful. We want to thank everybody for listening. We want to thank Prize Picks for their sponsorship on the podcast. Again, that promo code for Prize Picks is ROTOPOD, ROTOPOD. We do appreciate all the comments. We appreciate all the nice comments, all the questions, all that kind of stuff. We always love that. Hope everybody has a really good fantasy week. We're back at you next Sunday. Take care, and everybody have a really good week. Take care.